Well, joining me for more on Donald Trump and the Pope, Tony Sayegh, Fox News contributor, and Bernard Whitman, former Bill Clinton pollster and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. Boy, is this getting interesting. I mean, the Pope and Donald Trump. I mean, who knew that these two would get into it, especially right ahead of the South Carolina? I mean, you can't pick a worse time, actually, to have somebody calling you out as not being a strong enough Christian right before, South Carolina. Tony, is this going to have any play there?
Possibly true, Julie. You're better off with the odds you have in a Vegas house and winning there versus trying to predict if Donald Trump gets hurt by these types of battles. I will say Blake's point is the most important that he closed with, which is when you have such a large group, and you're alluding to this in your point about South Carolina, of Christian voters in these states that are coming up right now. Super Tuesday has a whole lot of these southern states. Is this a battle Donald Trump necessarily wants to fight? It won't hurt him with the 35% of people we know already support him. We see from the data time and time again, this is an almost immovable block. But it does start to raise those concerns people have, which is sometimes Trump gets into these fights where the immediate effect is not there, but the long-term damage can be done.
Let's take a look at the latest poll by Fox News on South Carolina and where Trump currently or most recently stands. He has the lead, obviously, with 31% right now among those white evangelical voters. And Ted Cruz comes in second and Rubio at third. Now, Ted Cruz was sort of the one that most thought would have the kind of Christian backing in South Carolina. What happened with Cruz? I mean, why is it, Bernard, that Ted Cruz is not getting those votes when he is a profound Christian, as everybody refers to him as?
I think he got trumped. I mean, there's no question that Donald Trump's attacks over and over and over on Ted Cruz and Rubio's follow-on attacks on Ted Cruz basically suggesting that he's a liar, he's dishonest, he can't be trusted. His campaign practices sort of underscore the fact that this guy is not someone that is nice, you can really get along with, have really hurt him. And I think that, to go back to the issue of the Pope, I think the near-term impact, as Tony suggests, is going to be fairly minimal, because we have to remember, in South Carolina, 60% evangelicals, only about 7 or 8% of the state are Catholics. And from what I gather, evangelicals have a bit of a different take on Christianity than the Pope does. So I don't think in the near term it's going to have an effect. But remember, Nevada's only a week away. They've got a lot of Latinos there, big Catholic vote. That's where it could
Trump says Latinos love him, so maybe that'll work out for him in Nevada. As far as negativity, negativity is something that used to hurt candidates, right? I mean, whenever you would see the sort of negative mudslinging, if you will, on the campaign trail, people were turned off by that. But it's interesting because it works for some candidates, it doesn't work for others. What is with that?
Well, two things. Number one, it goes toward the authenticity of the candidate. So, for example, if Donald Trump is doing something negative, as we see, most people actually think he is being the most negative in some of these recent polls.
Here it says 47% believe that Trump has treated other candidates unfairly, yet he's still.
It hurts him least because he's viewed as authentic. So, in other words, this is part of his personality. Whereas when you, for example, see a Jeb Bush try to play the same type of card, it doesn't translate quite as well, and it's viewed as much more of a generic political attack, whereas with Trump, it's almost embedded as part of the personality you're getting. But I want to say one thing. Bernard's absolutely right. The long-term impact on the Catholic vote, which we know is essential, particularly in the general election, particularly as this campaign moves to Pennsylvania and the Rust Belt, I don't think we can necessarily assessed at this point, but Donald Trump is picking a whole lot of fights with people he doesn't need to be picking fights with.
Bernard, real quick, I'll give you the final word.
You know, I think that it shows Donald Trump can just about do and say anything. His base doesn't seem to care, and it's sort of amazing because here's a guy who basically has proposed $15 trillion in addition to government spending, and his supporters that rail against the government don't seem to mind.
All right. Tony Sayegh, Bernard Whitman, thank you both for coming in.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.